race fans, and welcome to the ALZ.org Awareness 190 presented by Dan Ensch. It's race number 8 of 12, 218. See if you can count that many laps around this just under a mile facility here in Newton, Iowa. Of course, the virtual Iowa Speedway, such a fantastic circuit, very loved by all IndyCar drivers who get to race at this oval. Not too many ovals on the real-life schedule, but this is one of the prizes where they have returned to in real life, and so great to have the International IndyCar League here once again. I'm Trevor Greenfield. You're watching VirtualRacing.Network, and there's the ALZ car right there on your screen. That's Dan Ensch. He's out there qualifying, so let's go ahead and send it down trackside. We'll get a chance to see these drivers in action getting ready for today's race. So there, Dan Ensch puts his time up on the board. You can see it. He's good enough for second fastest, and we actually have a special presentation coming momentarily. Hoping to get Dan Ensch into this booth here. We'll get a chance to talk with Dan as soon as he is available. But, of course, this race presented by Dan Ensch, as I mentioned at the top of the broadcast, the ALZ.org Awareness 190, our chance to kind of give back and show that we can do something to hopefully end Alzheimer's, and the Alzheimer's Association doing such a fantastic job of that. So, Dan, do you have a copy on me?
Night.
It's so interesting to race at night, but in the morning we have a quick moment to chat with you. You put in your qualifying effort, good enough so far for sixth fastest. Tell us a little bit about today's race and the race sponsor, the Alzheimer's Association, why they mean so much to you.
Well, of course, you know, Trevor, that I do have a vested interest in this. My mother is suffering from Alzheimer's, and actually it's been re-diagnosed as both Alzheimer's and Lewy bodies. A lot of people don't know this, but there are 12 different kinds of dementia. Alzheimer's by itself is one of them, but you can also have a combination of dementias that involve Alzheimer's. About half of the 12 versions of dementia do include Alzheimer's, and Lewy bodies is one of them. So Mom has a double cross to bear right now, and we're seeking treatment for her, and hopefully, you know, things will be okay as far as getting her to the finish line. And I say that with all love and respect, but right now they don't know enough about Alzheimer's. They don't know enough about curing Alzheimer's or any other form of dementia for that matter. Research is imperative. The Alzheimer's Association is leading the way on that front, and that's why we want to get the word out about Alzheimer's Association. There are a lot of good websites out there that'll give you information on how to deal with the problems associated with your loved one or the people that you know who might be suffering from Alzheimer's. But Alzheimer's Association is leading the way on funding, researching that someday is going to whip this problem. And we would like to see people come out to the website and get involved in that.
Absolutely. Great message to get out there, and we certainly appreciate you bringing it to our attention. I know you got to get down to your race car and get ready for today's race, but you know, obviously suffering, the whole family does suffer when one person has Alzheimer's, and they suffer right alongside of them, and oftentimes caretakers, etc. So it's important everybody get over to ALZ.org as soon as the broadcast is over. Check it out. Get all the information that you need to help your loved ones, and also you can support the ALZ.org Foundation, the association, and be able to donate there. Thank you, Dan, and good luck today with the race. Hopefully another top 5.
Thank you, Trevor. We'll try.
There you go. That is Dan Ensch reporting in live before the race, and what a fantastic thing to have the ability. Of course, this is not our first time being able to showcase the ALZ.org Association, Alzheimer's Association, but every time we get to learn a little bit more, and it's just great that Dan is kind of out there leading the forefront of awareness, and we get to do that here through VirtualRacing.Network as well. Well, no surprises on track. You saw it here qualifying live. We're going to try to get the qualifying results up here for you momentarily. So we just go ahead and show you how they'll be starting today's race. It's the round number 8 at Iowa, the alls.org Awareness 190 presented by Dan Ensch. And starting on pole position for today's race will be none other than 5-time defending champion Graham Bunyan, starting alongside your current points leader. That's right. We're now like, what, 3/4 the way through this season? Or after the end of this race, we will be. So Jason Lowe holding on to that lead, although that gap continues to narrow. He's doing everything that he can to try to be in position to take advantage of it. There you can see the pink pig down there on the track getting ready to go. Jason Lowe will start outside of Graham Bunyan. Second row, surprise, great qualifying effort from Mike West. He's the localist driver to me, so that's always fun to watch his progress. But Mike West, they're going to be starting next to Howard Livingston, who makes triumphant return to cockpit, hopefully full time from this point onwards, with no more of that nasty storm business to happen. Starting on row 3, going to be Dominic Harte. He's fast, he's capable of winning, and certainly somebody that you need to take a strong look at today. He could be up there at the end for podium position. David Strid, this week's winner, going to be taking outside of row 3. Row 4 going to Jimmy Drennan, and race sponsor favorite Dan Ensch there. Wouldn't it be so magical to see him in victory lane here at his track at Iowa? Going to be starting just behind will be Mauro Ramirez and Christopher Bryan. And then starting on the 5th row, on the 6th row, Robert Barnicow and Rick Lovison. Manuel Gomez Esteban in the field again today. Great to have him back, as well as Richard Kelbaugh, Mr. Stick Quick. Obviously one of the fan favorites as well. Multiple seasons we've been talking about him and Stick Quick. Iñigo Mardones will be starting for the Necky Racing team just behind, and bringing up the back will be David Worrell. Not sure if he got in a qualifying time today. He's got that Bourdais, Dale Coyne, Vassar Sullivan Sealmaster livery going on there, which I believe is a current livery still, so we can show it. I'm not sure. We're going to be changing some rules up here as some, as some liveries maybe are a little bit more acceptable to the general iRacing paint policy. So more to stay tuned on that for sure. We might be able to relax some of the rules here in what we can broadcast on VirtualRacing.Network, much to the happiness, I'm sure, of these racers that are out there. But more on that to come very soon. In the meantime, we'll get to the points in a minute. The thing that you need to know is that driver in the pink car right there, Jason Lowe, he is your points leader. And as we get set for today's race, you got to watch out for Jason Lowe, Graham Bunyan, and David Strid, as they are within 20 points of each other as we get down to the very end of Season 16. Who will it be? Well, we'll find out as Graham Bunyan starts from pole and drops the hammer. 218 laps here at Iowa Speedway. Already, gap starting to open from second place on back. Here's David Strid, who's already marched up the order 3 spots. No surprise there. Now your 1, 2, 3 in the championship are in the top 3. But not so fast, says Howard Livingston and Dominic Harte. Here comes a fast-charging Dominic Harte. You can see some more action a little bit further back. That's Howard Livingston. Dominic Harte battling it out for position. Mike West there in the black and red car, now getting ready to challenge David Strid just up in front of him. Dominic Harte starting to settle in there in the white, red, and blue car. But back up in front, it's Graham Bunyan, who's still in the lead as he marches into turns 3 and 4 and back down this long rounded straightaway. At least much more rounded than these drivers are used to. It's kind of almost a completely rounded straightaway like Richmond or something like that, where you never really fully take your steering wheel and put it to direct dead center. But here they are on lap number 6 already. It's flying by. 218 laps today, and Graham Bunyan still leading. Jason Lowe second, David Strid in third, Mike West here holding on to fourth, Howard Livingston in fifth. And now we look a little bit further back. It's Dominic Harte, Jimmy Drinnan, who started in seventh. He's still hanging out in seventh. Mauro, MJ Ramirez, currently racing in 8th place. Dan Ensch, presenting sponsor of today's race, just behind in 9th place. Now, a couple of notes we'll be getting to here in just a moment. Dan Ensch, always so kind to supply us with a little bit of extra strategy info as he's completed the practice sessions from Saturday. Taking a look back up front, and we can see Graham Bunyan and Jason Lowe still within earshot of each other. But Dan Ensch checking in with us to let us know it's basically looking like 41 to 48 laps. 4 stops today is definitely possible with about 44 laps a stint. So that's about halfway between the window, or right in the middle of that window. Some guys only able to do 41 laps. So it'll be interesting to see, especially as far as how the yellows go. Pit entry is going to be very interesting today. The drivers are going to have to enter off of turn 3, make sure they get all 4 of their tires underneath that line, that pit entry line. So it's going to be a very interesting race. That the walls here seem much closer than they appear, or they are much closer than they appear. We'll go ahead and jump on board here with Jason Lowe. He heads through what there is the front straight into turn 1, keeping that car in the middle of the groove, rides it up off of turn 2, back into turn 3. Again, you notice these drivers not coming all the way down to the apex. That's not really the line here. Kind of preferred to hang out sort of towards the outside, maybe second lane up at the lowest. So making passes might be a little difficult as you hear what we potentially think might be a scrape of the wall. That's how easy it would be to do here, as the car wants to kind of naturally ride further and further out. So you can hear the crowd really having a great time here at Virtual Iowa Speedway. Another sold-out crowd for the International IndyCar League. That means every single race they've ever participated on or in has been, in fact, a sold-out race. But you see, one problem has already emerged. There's Robert Barnicow sitting in the pits, and we have a note that says he's had an incident. So let's go ahead and take a look at what took out Robert Barnicow. He looks like he's just racing by himself. Gets really close to that outside wall. Perhaps had the weight jacker a little too high, and that caused the rear end to snap around, come down to the inside wall, and right off the front of what was a beautiful red Dallara IR-18 IndyCar. But what it'll do is move everybody back up and just throw a little monkey wrench into everybody's overall, if it had gone green all race long, strategy. Of course, at this point, it's not going to matter too much. And now Graham Bunyan, David Strid, many drivers deciding to come down into the pits. Jason Lowe sticking to his guns, though. Going to stay out there today, try and take that track position. You know, there is a strategy that says you basically don't want to come into pit until you have to. And so what that'll do is it'll put Jason Lowe at the front on, you know, just only 17 lap old tires. And in a track like this, that probably isn't, you know, at nighttime, it's probably not too much of a detriment. but it'll also allow Christopher Bryan, a driver that we have not been really talking about too much, to actually get right up there into the mix. So he's going to be restarting in second place. Now let's go ahead and take a look at the points as they stand coming into today's race. Just takes a brief moment to get that information up there. There we go, and we'll make sure we get race position information up there for you as well. You can see David Strid actually gaining a spot with last week's victory over Graham Bunyan, so that'll put him up there into second. Jason Lowe still hanging on, and again, you can see it's actually 30 points. I misspoke at the top of the broadcast, but about 33 points separating Graham Bunyan from Jason Lowe now, and that first and second differential being just 18 points. I mean, really one misfortune from Jason Lowe and or one great fortunate drive from David Strid, and this could be reversed order. So I think Lowe knows that. He comes on broadcast afterwards and talks about it frequently, but it's not really focused so much on the championship picture. He just kind of wants to take it one race at a time. And, you know, who can blame him? I mean, that's sort of the, let's just focus on what we can handle today. Let's not worry about tomorrow and, you know, positioning ourselves so that we get the maximum amount of points every single race. Let's just try to go out there, win races, and see if all the points work out at the end. And, of course, if you have a chance to take that opportunity and get up there and lead the race, as he's already done, hey, you get an extra bonus point. That's great. So will Jason Lowe be able to hold on today in the lead and extend that points lead out? Well, that is going to be a question that we will be answering very, very shortly. So the pace car continuing around here. As Jason Lowe begins to prepare for pace car to drop off, as it does right there. Take a good look in his mirrors, and he'll step on that accelerator, bring us under Barney the Flagman, and continue down into turn one. Headed into turn three. There's been a change of position now. Mike West slotting into fourth as Christopher Bryan now starts to drop back through the field. You can see him there on your screen, Low, just kind of letting everybody go by. It's perhaps he didn't expect that he would end up in that second position. Either way, he's kind of letting everybody go. So now at the front, it's Jason Lowe, your points leader. And let us not forget, three-time champion not that long ago of this league. He could come back today and show us that Jason Lowe that he's known for in this league and known for in real life. Tenacious, persistent, and championship caliber. He's doing everything he can right now, racing for his own charity sponsor, Rescue Ranch, who we got a chance to talk about a couple of weeks ago. But everybody's sort of recovering after a couple of road course races that I think were a bit of a change up for everybody, honestly, in this league. It's most of these drivers predominantly are oval drivers, and so the fact that they have to race a couple of road courses does not necessarily work well with their skill set as it currently stands. But I think one of the cool things that I've seen over the last several seasons is a number of these drivers really improve their racecraft long term and start looking at these road courses as something that they can make a lot of points on, to be honest. But back into this race, Jason Lowe leads it, Graham Bunyan in second, David Strid in third. We're now just over 10th of the way through this race, and once again, so great to have you with us here, VirtualRacing.Network, checking in with us over in the chat room. Aussie Racer, that's Graham Bunyan, letting us know, hey, good luck all. Absolutely, good luck to him and all of the competitors in today's race. And certainly if you're checking in with us over on YouTube, hey, let us know where you're watching from and who you're rooting on. Or if you're just hanging out and enjoying your Sunday morning wherever you're at, or if you're Australian, perhaps Monday morning. Just let us know where you're watching from. It's always exciting here in the International IndyCar League, be able to know how far we're reaching out there into the interwebosphere. Jason Lowe in the Pink Pig, getting it done here at Iowa. It's a long, long way to go, but he's trying to perhaps take a crown of kind of a crown jewel, if I do say, of the real-life IndyCar series. I mean, it has really captured a lot of these drivers' love in the real-life league, real-life series. They absolutely love coming to Iowa, and it's given us so much great racing in real life as well. As we can see up in front, that's Iñigo Mardones from Barcelona, Spain, for the Necky Racing team, trying to make a move on regular Rick Lovison. And he's got his hands full. This is, as I said, it's easier said than done to really make these moves stick here at Iowa, because the car just sort of naturally wants to take this outside line. And so not only that, but the track is not really long enough that you can get a very good run. There you can see manages to take that position from Rick Lovison. And generally speaking, you really do have to wait for the driver up in front to either make a mistake or try to defend. And you've just got to position yourself in the right place. But there you saw it live. Iñigo Mardones moving up into 11th spot. Now he'll have his sights set on Christopher Bryan, who lies just ahead. Back up front, no change whatsoever. You can still see a little bit of a gap, probably about 12, 15 car lengths now between Jason Lowe and Graham Bunyan. Certainly Bunyan wouldn't be daunted by that sort of gap. Something he probably could reel in if he wanted to, but once again, to catch the driver is one thing, to make passes quite another, and when to make that pass is quite another. These drivers going to be very wary of overusing that right rear tire, as we just saw Robert Barnicow having an incident. And looking through the field here, looks like we've had Howard Livingston drop back a spot. So that moves him back 2 spots from where he started today. But this driver just up in front, Jimmy Drennan, is doing what we've known from him for so long, which is that he's definitely a front pack sort of racer, and he's moved himself up into 5th place already. So, you know, this could be a day for Jimmy to sneak up there and steal a podium, and we'll just have to watch his progress. Looking a little bit further back, there's Dominic Harte. I mentioned him at the top of the broadcast. He's also one of these drivers, kind of like Dan Ensch, that, you know, if you blink, he may go from riding around in 7th place and kind of, taking care of his equipment, to suddenly up there in the top 3. You just have to kind of watch where he's at there on the track and just follow along. And that's why we provide that ticker and or the tower over on the left-hand side, so you can follow your favorite drivers. In fact, why don't we go ahead and put up the track map? That might actually be helpful. You can actually see where your favorite drivers are relative to each other out there. You just look for the initials on the right side of the screen. There's race sponsor Dan Ensch, of course, bringing out the great message about ending Alzheimer's. We will get a chance at our next commercial break to hear directly from the Alzheimer's organization. And, I try not to get too emotional with those videos that we play. They can get very emotional. Obviously, there is so much suffering that happens with everything from mental illness to some of the cancer treatments that we feature in some of the other broadcasts, etc. But when we hear about the Alzheimer's organization, it's very much talking about what they do and why they are so important to the research that's necessary for Alzheimer's. So it's something to keep in mind when you're watching it, because they have taken the lead in terms of research, and you would expect so with their name. But I mean, for example, with cancer research, you've got hundreds of companies out there that are well known, hundreds of nonprofits that are well known that raise money for cancer research and potentially finding a cure for cancer. But when you have somebody like, or an organization like the Alzheimer's Association, they are leading the fight. They have their own research that they do in-house. They have developed their own treatments. They have developed their own literature to disseminate to people. Lots of support groups and information available through the Alzheimer's Association for anybody who's suffering. There you can see Jason Lowe making his pit stop. He's having to come out of cycle of the others who had stopped during yellow. So green flag stop, probably gonna really trap Jason Lowe, possibly 2 laps down here. But that'll cycle around if it stays green. In the meantime, Graham Bunyan continues, this time going from second to first, and he'll capture a bonus point. As we know, those bonus points are so crucial to the end of the season championship. And I mean, especially for some of the drivers, like, I don't want to say at points Graham Bunyan has won by a bunch of points. I mean, because he definitely has. But what I'm saying is, as you look sort of down towards the mid-pack, you see Jason Lowe there emerge now 2 laps down. But a lot of those drivers that are in those mid-pack battles, now we're watching Dan Ensch and MJ Ramirez here battle it out on track. MJ in the blue and black car. Those drivers that are in the mid-pack battles, that tends to be like 5-point separation, sometimes 3-point separation. And obviously, if you have 10 bonus points, I mean, that could be the difference between 1 or 2 positions in that mid-pack in the championship at the end. So you really, really have to watch it. Here's side-by-side racing as Dan Ensch moves up the track and hits. I don't know if he knew that MJ Ramirez was there. I will have to go back and watch that. Let's go ahead and take a look live here at our replay. I guess that's that's an oxymoron, but let's look at the replay. MJ Ramirez really high on the track. Now he starts up towards the wall. Does he come down? Well, we see Dan is behind at this point. And we'll have to flash it forward here. Okay, so it's not quite this corner. I think it's going to be one of the upcoming corners. So Dan would be aware that the car on the outside would be Ramirez. He would think that he was clear of Ramirez, but he was not. And I don't know if he just had to check up from washing out prior to the corner. That is possible. But that ended up drifting up into the path of your race steward, MJ Ramirez. So if there's, my goodness me, Graham Bunyan coming right over the top of the nose there of Jason Lowe. Perhaps, I mean, he had to clear that lap car, and my goodness, that was very close. So we are under yellow here with Christopher Bryan, who's had an incident. Let's see if we can tell what happened here. It looks like he's exiting. No, he's entering the pits. Not sure why it decided to fast forward. Let's go ahead and back that up. See if we can tell exactly what took place. He is exiting the pits, and he goes to drop the hammer, and it breaks the rear wheels loose, and not exactly sure what would cause that. Perhaps he still had his weight jacker settings where they were at previous to coming into the pits. That's a possibility. Either way, that is what will bring out our second caution of the day. That's music to our ears because we get to pay some bills. So stay tuned and you will get to find out everything you wanted to know.
40 years ago, Alzheimer's disease wasn't discussed at the dinner table or in the doctor's office. But a group of people devastated by the disease came together to change that. Out of their passion, the Alzheimer's Association was born, and today is the leading organization in Alzheimer's care, support, and research. For the more than 6 million Americans living with Alzheimer's and their over 11 million caregivers, the association's free 24/7 helpline and website at alz.org are often a first source of information. From support groups to online message boards, the Alzheimer's Association is available wherever and whenever help is needed. The Alzheimer's Association is the nonprofit with the highest impact in Alzheimer's research worldwide, behind only the Chinese and United States governments. The association is currently investing more than $235 million in over 650 best-of-field projects in 39 countries. These studies will uncover new methods of diagnosis and deepen our understanding of the risk factors and causes of this fatal disease. As a result of the association's vision and commitment, the scientific community is now poised to discover breakthrough methods of treatment and prevention. The Alzheimer's Association has activated a nationwide network of dedicated advocates who, together with the association, work at all levels of government to address the Alzheimer's crisis. Under the association's leadership, and with support from champions in Congress, Alzheimer's funding has reached a historic high of $3.1 billion, and policies to enhance access to critical care planning are now in place. No other organization has the reach, the knowledge, or the understanding to defeat Alzheimer's disease. But we can't do it alone. Stand with the Alzheimer's Association today to build a world without Alzheimer's and all other dementia tomorrow. Join us.
So, of course, you can learn so much more and donate at that link, alz.org. It's right there on the side pod. And, of course, it's just so wonderful that Dan, despite, it's just one of those things, Dan suffering as his mother is suffering. And certainly that is something that a lot of people going through out there. But rather than, keep everything to himself, bury himself in maybe his own suffering from it, he's reaching out, letting everyone know about what it's like to live with somebody who has dementia, who has Alzheimer's. It's not an easy thing to get through. And of course, we hope for everybody's sake that you can get support that you need, get your family members who are suffering the support that they need, and of course, donate to the greater cause and be able to hopefully end Alzheimer's and all of the associated related causes to that. And there's so many different things that are related to these types of diseases, but Alzheimer's.org leading the way, and honestly, besides the United States and Chinese governments, there's really nobody that's going to deliver the cure unless it's them. So alz.org, make your donation today and help fight ALZ. Thank you, and thanks to Dan Ensch. So back to the race here. You hear the crowd going crazy as they really appreciate the ALZ Association and what they do. And of course, these International IndyCar drivers who are out there leading the way. Speaking of international, we have two Australians up in front. You may have heard of them, maybe not. Graham Bunyan, David Strid. They are the superstars of the league at the moment. But don't look too far back, because you've got a new face up here. Hey, it's Jimmy Drennan. I was just mentioning him not long ago. Up 4 spots. Jimmy Drennan in third. Maybe he won't be settling for that third spot for very long. Just behind, it's Mike West, Howard Livingston, Dominic Harte, Iñigo Mardones, Dan Ensch, Rick Lovison, Daniel Gomez-Esteban, and David Worrell. That's your top 10. Jason Lowe there into position. Ignore the yellow. There you go. One of the aspects of our software that it takes a moment for it to realize it's not a yellow flag any longer. There you go. So Jimmy Drennan in third. Howard Livingston back in fifth. Looks like that gap kind of opening up between David Strid and Jimmy Drennan now. Mike West having a fantastic race. Hanging on in fourth. Driver out of Yakima, Washington. We don't get to talk about him too much. He's usually pretty much keeping to himself out there on the track. One of the drivers that unfortunately seems to get caught up in other people's wrecks a lot. And it's just one of those things, part of racing, that it's almost like you get to the point where you're just like, okay, if I get around anybody else, like if anybody's going to come up to pass me, I'm just going to let them go because I don't even want to get close to him. Sometimes you got to do that for a while. But hey, check out this driver who's making his march through the field. This is Iñigo Mardones. You can see there on the right-hand side, he's already up 8 spots so far from his 15th place starting position. So Iñigo kind of starting to reel in that potential top 5. Jason Lowe, your points leader, he did have to pit previous to that caution, but he was able to get a lap back. Yes, he did get a lap back, so he doesn't have as fresh a tires as everybody else, but he does have a lot lighter of a race car because he's carrying probably about half as much fuel. And we'll look at the pit strategy here shortly. There you go. You can see the difference in the pit stop strategy at the moment as Logo's cruising by Manuel Gomez Esteban. Again, that not for position, but now they are on the same lap. Mauro Ramirez really only losing, I guess, 2 laps. Trying to see, he's actually shown 1 lap down now, but you can see, as I mentioned, the pit stop strategy for these drivers, and there's really only 2 drivers on that side strategy at the moment between Rorel and Lowe. Everyone else kind of coming in right around the same time. Ramirez a little bit earlier than the others. So here we are on lap 76. My rough math says that's about a third of the way through the race. It's about as good as my math gets. David Worrell now into the pits. So bringing that very familiar livery down onto pit road. Really thought we would see Bourdais scored a bunch of victories with that livery. He just seemed to be in the right place at the right time for a while, but unfortunately, Sebastian did not. I mean, you look at the competition level in the real-life IndyCar series. I mean, as a lifelong fan of racing, since I was, I don't know, maybe 7 or 8 years old starting out, and then more starting out on the NASCAR side, and then I found my way to open wheel and IndyCar. I mean, watching back in the 90s all the way through, I have never seen the competition higher in what is IndyCar or previously CART Champ Car. So cool stuff, but unfortunately for drivers like Bourdais, who dominated during the Champ Car era with smaller car counts and, you know, probably half the field maybe not really at the top level of the sport, you know, kind of a small fish in a big pond at that point. You go from being a big fish in a small pond. So Bourdais not really able to get all of the victories that you might think in the IndyCar series, and unfortunately, you know, kind of finding himself on the outs at this point. But he having a fantastic career. Somebody to salute, certainly for his dominance that he did have with teams like Newman Haas. Back up here in the front of this race, though, these virtual Dallara IR-18 IndyCars sizzling around Iowa Speedway, the virtual Iowa Speedway here on iRacing. Once again, so great to have everybody joining us here. If you're not subscribed, make sure to smash the subscribe button. And I used to say it's red because that's what it was on YouTube, but now it's like black or white with a black outline. Either way, it'll say subscribe. So click that button because that puts you like in direct connection with VirtualRacing.Network and the International IndyCar League. I mean, like, as soon as we announce the next race or as soon as we schedule it, boom, it's going to show up right in your YouTube feed, which I'm telling you, like, this is the first time you've ever subscribed, but I'm so excited about it, I just have to explain it that way. So definitely do that. Make sure you like this video. You'll get more IndyCar and iRacing related stuff thanks to the artificial intelligence of YouTube's algorithm. And it probably helps us out too, because the algorithm probably recommends us to other people just like yourself. So hit the subscribe button, like the video, and a like for us is a like for ALZ.org, and it's a like for the International IndyCar League. Here you see some tight battling. It's Dominic Harte there in the white, red, and blue car having to take some evasive action around Mike West, trying to make a pass for 4th place. Mike hanging on to that spot. He's done a fantastic job to defend thus far. These drivers getting very close to one another. Harte looking to the outside, not able to get it done. Perhaps he'll try the over-under here into 3. Can't do it again. There's Howard Livingston looking on there from 6th place. He's not too far back, and Iñigo Mardones now part of this battle as well. So 4 cars very close together here at Iowa, trying to decide 4th position. Come out at turn 4. This crowd loving this battling that's going on in the mid-pack. You can also see Dan Ensch creeping into that picture in the background in 8th spot. Dan, and now we can see actually Howard Livingston trying to take a look on the low side there of Dominic Harte. Howard Livingston fans rejoicing that he's back in the cockpit. And when I say fans, I mean that quite literally. You know, I kind of joke around occasionally that these drivers have virtual fans. I mean, they do have virtual fans. May only be their immediate family members and friends, but they have fans, that's for sure. But Howard Livingston working with a couple of different, working as a solo artist. Obviously, a great musician down in Florida with his bands as well. Mile Marker 24 band. And so he's garnered his own amount of fans, and you see Howard Livingston having to get around Mike West, who has now damaged his car. So I was really reaching to explain who Howard Livingston is for some reason. But Howard, he has his own fans. That's the point. He and his bands have a lot of friends that love to show up for his shows. So if you're not familiar with them, look up the Mile Marker 24 band and Howard Livingston. But Bunyan now starting to pull away from David Strid. 2.83 seconds, and we'll try to go back and see if we can figure out what happened to Mike West there a moment ago. It was not strong enough to bring out the caution. So we'll take a look from up above. This is Dominic Harte, who took a look down to the low side on West. Starting to make that pass, and there you can see West getting up into the wall. Get the camera focused on him, and then from that point, unfortunately, nowhere to go for Iñigo Mardones, and I'm not sure if he sustained damage, but it kind of looked like he did make contact there. It doesn't appear as though Howard Livingston made any damage. or sustain any damage due to that incident. So kind of a single car thing, but for Mike West getting past there on the low side. And that's kind of what I was talking about. You know, this track is just so fast, as we do have Manuel Gomez Esteban, who's crashed, and I don't show a yellow flag thus far. There he is sitting on the track. Still no yellow has come out. He's going to try to get the car. Oh, there he does decide to pull it down into the pits, and we do not go yellow, thankfully. I do see, though, that David Worrell had a moment. What was that all about? Let's go ahead and take a look back. Oh, he was exiting the pits. And there he's already having an incident. So let's see if we can back it up and tell what happened with Worrell. There he hit. Oh, and he tangled with Gomez Esteban. So this is looking overhead. Worrell and Gomez Esteban there side by side, and Gomez Esteban comes down the track for some reason into Worrell. And again, I don't really have anything to say why that would have happened. So let's go ahead and we'll see if we can back it up one more lap. And we'll look from Manuel Gomez Esteban's point of view. Was there anything that caused him to come down the track? He was quite high there on the track in the previous corner, and coming through turn 3 and 4. Starts on the gas. He just kind of comes down the track. I don't know that he knew that Worrell was there. You would think he would, but it's possible a spotter told him that he was clear, and he was obviously not clear. So the good news is that, well, you know, Rick Kelbaugh did a fantastic job. There's Rick, just in front of our leader. It's on board with Rick, looking back at Graham Bunyan, who's about to put a lap on him. Easy to do here at this under a mile speedway, but indeed, Rick Kelbaugh, I have no idea where I was going with that. Oh, that's right, he was the steward. And he did such a great job. It's funny because MJ took over the role of being the race steward this season, and it's honestly like it's just become that's who's the race steward now. So my point was more that Mauro has really gotten into that role, and he takes it very seriously. Those of you that know him, he's very honest guy, very authentic, genuine person, and he was given the task of handling the stewardship responsibilities here, and I don't know that he's necessarily done that before. So it's kind of a little bit of a learning curve, learning first with Rick and then kind of get dropped in the deep end and having to deal with some situations. But through it all, he's produced these fantastic reports on what the drivers have been doing, and we now have our race leaders, Graham Bunyan and David Strid. Wrong camera there. David Strid making his way down into the pits. So the point is, MJ Ramirez, your race steward, he's going to be taking a very close look at every one of these incidents, making sure that nothing nefarious happened, and assigning penalties as they are necessary. And the kind of the crackdown sort of beginning here in the league in terms of making sure that drivers, you know, really aren't out there causing incidents for each other and aren't the reason why somebody ends up in a wreck. And ultimately, that's what you want out of strong stewarding, is somebody who's fair but consistent with the rules and manages to penalize those who sort of deserve it. Hate to say it, but yeah, if you make a wrong move and you take someone else out, you kind of deserve it. And so anyway, MJ, the swift bearer of justice. But there's your presenting race driver. I guess that's the right way to say it. Dan Ensch out there, your race sponsoring presenter. Dan Ensch got to go around in the lead there for a moment, but he'll have to pull it in. Graham Bunyan shown a lap down, but now comes around the outside of Dan Ensch, and very, very shortly will take over that lead position. So here we are, lap 117 of 218. So just over 100 laps to go. And that's how fast a lap is here, looking past Barney the Flagman. That's how fast that lap goes by. So now just 100 laps remaining here for the ALZ.org Awareness 190 presented by Dan Ensch. Graham Bunyan is your leader. He took over the lead from Jason Lowe after Lowe decided to not pit on the opening caution of the race, which was during the first stint. A lot of drivers, in fact, almost all of the drivers coming down to take service during that caution. But Jason Lowe staying out there. He's now on his original strategy, but we'll see how that all plays out with yellow flags in terms of who ends up in that lead bunch at the end. Here you're looking at David Strid, kind of wingman. I don't know if that's the right word to say, because David is so capable behind the wheel. Not really a wingman to Graham Bunyan, but in times of need, they kind of do work together. But certainly Strid flexing his muscles up there in that second place in the championship, taking race victories. Certainly, it's easy to say that, you know, here comes Graham Bunyan up through the championship standings, but you can't write off David Strid. I don't mean to put it past Jason Lowe, who's your current points leader, and he's certainly in position to have a great race here today, but David Strid, his consistency and his speed have been absolutely a factor this season in keeping him up there into that second place in the championship. So, I mean, you're not going to be able to count out the likes of Graham Bunyan, but he's going to have to actually come through David Strid and Jason Lowe to win this championship. So if you're a fan, the International IndyCar League, this is kind of shaping up into the championship you would want, where we've got 3 drivers who can easily take this championship within the next 3 races, and so we get a chance to watch it unfold. Actually, 4 more races at the end, but remember, one of them will be eligible as a drop race. So should one of these drivers end up with a really poor race in the next 3 or 4, assuming that they've completed all of the races, which pretty sure they will, they'll get a chance to kind of at their discretion drop whatever race they want to. See, now, if you don't show up to all the races, and that's an unfortunate part of reality, I mean, we're not being paid to drive these race cars. If these drivers were being paid $1,000 a race to drive these race cars, I guarantee you they would probably find a way to compete in all of the races, and their family members would understand. But real life takes over. I mean, you look at Howard Livingston, the fact that he's down in the Keys, down in Florida, well, right in the path of the hurricane, and Howard Livingston stepping on a coconut and breaking his foot. You know, I mean, that's going to sideline you for some time. And just regular internet issues even taking out Graham Bunyan and Jason Lowe at times, technical issues, Dominic Harte kind of operating from a whole different place in the world, in the United Arab Emirates. And I mean, you know, he's on a different continent than Graham Bunyan and Jason Lowe. So the internet drops in one part of the world, it may only affect you, but nobody else is affected. So this is one of the issues with the internet still in its, I mean, you could say developed age, but I mean, we're only like how many years into the internet? Like 20, 30 years, like of the actual developed modern internet. So you can imagine in the next 20 or 30 years, it'll be a lot more secure and a lot more predictable, but still internet issues can arise at any point. Certainly sun flares, sunspots, other disruptions causing issues, hackers, and all the rest. But Harte here up one spot so far from where he started, currently running in fourth spot, and Jimmy Drennan just up in front. I say just up in front, he's actually 3.45 seconds in front in that third spot. Got Graham Bunyan out there leading the race. That's not so unfamiliar. You look on board with Graham, and let's just watch as he drives around the track, kind of what his line is. Watch his steering inputs here. Very smooth on the steering wheel, on entry, mid-corner. You can just see he doesn't change the direction of that steering wheel at all during the middle of the corner. Keeps it exactly held steady. So what that says to me is he knows the balance on the car. He knows exactly the turning radius that he wants to use during the middle of the corner. He's entering the corner exactly on the line that he wants to be on for the mid and the exit of the corner. And as a result, he's not overheating the tires as they go through the corner. If you're having to put extra steering input in, which means sort of moving the wheel left and right to try to find the right line through the corner, because maybe the tires, the right rear might be a little hotter or worn more than the right front, so you're trying to find a little bit of a different line. Obviously, he has the tools at his disposal between the weight jacker and the anti-roll bar adjustments to be able to change that. And of course, you can also take your foot out of the throttle and kind of pedal it a little bit if that's necessary to try to get the right corner trajectory. That's kind of the last thing you want to do, because that'll slow you down ultimately and change your exit speed. But Graham, there's a reason why he's taken 5 consecutive championships. And I don't know, maybe I can talk about it. I'm not sure if I'm supposed to talk about it, but oh my goodness, boy, that got a little close there, close for comfort with Manuel Gomez's step-on there in mid-corner, started drifting up. Take a look at that Manuel Gomez's step-on machine for Team Mazinger. Always great to have him in the field. Kind of missed the Super Mango, like super bright, colorful livery, but I think this one looks a lot like the Carlin Motorsports. And we are under yellow as we have Jimmy Drennan and Mauro Ramirez having an issue trying to get to that. There we go, Mauro and Jimmy. So let's see if we can figure out what happened. We'll take a look here. This was Mike West getting around MJ. We'll go to the blimp shot here and see if we can tell what happens. So at this point, it looks like MJ is okay. So we go to the full speed view here. It's Mike West passing. And MJ there in the blue and black car at the center of the picture. We're just watching to see when the incident occurs. There's Mike West drifting up the track. MJ has to come down the track. Rick Kelbaugh gets into the back of MJ, hurting his race car, and then boom, right into the side comes your 4th place car of Jimmy Drennan. Unfortunate for him. So let's step back here and see what Jimmy saw from on board, because this was probably quite a ride. Now imagine that you're Jimmy and you're just pedaling your race car here, and you've been doing this for a bunch of laps, and then up in front, here's what happens. You see him drifting. He's coming up the track. What do? Oh, my goodness. He kind of lost control there. And that is how quickly you write off a virtual $1 million Dallara IR-18 IndyCar. Unfortunate for those drivers, and of course Rick Kelbaugh getting caught in the middle of that. So Rick has been having a lot of great finishes. He's had one of his best seasons for sure. Just really difficult to avoid those types of incidents. Now we've got a bunch of drivers in the pits. Rick Lovison, Jason Lowe, Mike West, Jimmy Drennan, Christopher Bryan, Manuel Gomez Esteban, Mauro, MJ Ramirez in the pits. It looks like Dan Ensch is shown at the front of this group. Not quite sure how this is going to be sorted out here, because Dan, oh, I see. Okay, so Dan, I believe, is officially a lap down to these other drivers, and so he'll get a wave around. There's Graham Bunyan, who scored at the front of the race. So Dan actually being a lap down is going to get his lap back here, and that's great news for everybody who's not only a Dan Ensch fan, but rooting on ending ALZ, because my goodness me, wouldn't it be awesome to see that car up there on the podium today. Dan will get the command to wave around here next lap once the pace car puts its lights out. Punches its lights out, I wanted to say. Doesn't make any sense. Okay, Graham Bunyan there in the lead. It's going to be David Strid restarting in second. Dominic Harte, I said it before, here he is. Look at that Hesketh machine. Now, Dominic, you know, he was rocking a different livery there for a period of time that brought him some success. So it's interesting to see him come back to this Hesketh livery. For those of you that recall the Formula One Hesketh machine. But either way, he's up there in third. Hey, look at Iñigo Mardones all the way up 11 spots into that fourth spot. So he's having a spectacular day for that Necky Racing team. Howard Livingston, carecamps.org, Coconut Castaways out of Florida, holding on there in fifth. And here comes Dan Ensch getting that wave around. He'll have to go back and rejoin the others at the back of the field, the end of the line, but certainly easier to see the front from there. So these drivers now lining up here. You see Dominic Harte kind of wiggling back and forth to keep those tires warm. One of those things that nobody has really ever sufficiently shown whether that works or not in virtual racing. I think it's been kind of proven in real life it does work, but in virtual racing it's a question mark. Either way, it's fun to do. So Graham Bunyan gonna lead us back here on lap number 149. Barney the Flagman waves the flag. We're back underway here at Iowa. Bunyan and Strid now 1-2. Dominic Harte just behind. We look back, it's Iñigo Mardones who's starting to close in on Dominic Harte. Could this be Mardones' day? It's been a while since he's been up there in the podium position. We'll have to see whether or not he can hang on today. It usually is someone else's misfortune that catches him out, but still quite a lot of racing to go here. On another 30 laps. Does appear as though this gap, though, between Dominic Harte and David Strid is actually closing down. That time, Dominic Harte sitting the fastest lap of the race at a 17.38. Once again, you are watching. Wow, did I have the wrong laps? Totally had the wrong laps in my mind. It is lap 153 of 218. Part of the problem is I can only watch on a small preview monitor. Just out of the way. I have 3 monitors going, but just the way that it ends up getting put together, my preview is so small that unless I bounce it out, it's difficult for me to exactly see those numbers that you're seeing there on your 4K ultra high definition screen. Much easier for you to be watching it than it is for me to be looking in on the preview. Maybe that's something I can fix in the future. But nevertheless, lap 155 of 218, and Graham Bunyan leads David Strid. Strid up 4 spots from where he started, and Harte up 2 spots from where he started today. But once again, just not a surprise. I mean, cream often rises to the top. Harte, age 46. Actually, one of the younger drivers here in the league. But I'm sure when he gets another 10 or 20 years of experience, he'll be quite the formidable foe in one of these Dallara IR-18 IndyCars. He's already up there challenging 2 of the legends of the International IndyCar League. How about this guy, Iñigo Mardones? He's still hanging on there in that 4th spot. I think he's for real today. 666 machine out of Barcelona, Spain. Looking good for Necky Racing. Howard Livingston also here in the top 5. Can he hold on? That would be a pretty good finish for him. It's been a lot of difficult racing. We just talked about Dan Ensch. He's just up in front of Jason Lowe here. Jason Lowe drifting back 5 spots from the start due to jumping to the alternate strategy. But the thing to keep in mind here is that Jason Lowe last pitted, trying to get this information for you, on lap 144. So I guess the same time as your race leaders, but he's been solidified into that position being a lap down. So he's gained 1 of his 2 laps down back, and he's going to have to, now that he's on the same strategy as everyone else, he's going to have to try to get yet another lap back before he can really challenge up there for the lead. Bunyan, though, cruising here in Iowa for race number 8 of 12 for the International IndyCar League. Just kind of sending it into the corner and just holding onto the wheel. Just picturing him just taking small sips of tea with one hand. Probably has a drink holder built into his new sim rig. Or perhaps, you know, I've often wondered who, maybe somebody uses an actual drink bottle hooked up to their, you know, like with a straw hooked up. They can just lean over, take a quick drink. That would be pretty handy. You know, more than a few times he gets really close to the wall though, doesn't he? Kind of on our screen, it looked like he scraped the wall a couple of laps ago, but just often come to say that that's probably net code. But he's getting very close to that wall. And I don't know if that's maybe an attempt to open up the exit a little bit more, get these tires to wear a little bit less. Maybe it's an effort to try to carry more speed so that he can put some more distance between he and David Strid and the rest of the field. But we'll continue to watch as that develops. Look a little bit further back. Here's a driver we don't get to talk about enough. It's Rick Lovison. He's having a great race up there in 8th place at the moment. 4 spots he's gained today. And I always talk about how beautiful that race car is here. Finally got a close enough camera and stable enough camera that you can kind of look at it there it is, the Berkshire Lakeside Lodge out of Massachusetts, which is where Rick is currently residing, even though it says his hometown, Chicago, Illinois. Certainly, as I've mentioned, those trees do it for me. I'm telling you, I want to see those autumn leaves. It'd be fun to go and visit Rick at where he's working there at the Lakeside Lodge. So book your tickets today. Tell him VirtualRacing.Network's Trevor Greenfield sent you. Mike West, well, he was partying up with the front group. Now he's kind of partying in the middle pack. He did have that incident where Harte was trying to make the pass down low, and that pushed him up into the wall. Not that Dominic hit him, but just the fact that a car was there kind of rattled him a little bit, made him go a little bit higher, and he came up and drifted into that wall and back across the track. But he's kind of recovered here. He's now 2 laps down, so he'll have to try to get those laps back. But either way, hanging out inside the top 10. And certainly if you have a crash, that's kind of the place that you do want to end up, is at least in the top 10. Kind of salvage some points out of your race. Here's Dan Ensch. Up. There's Dan getting the tires down below that line. That means it's time for him to make his pit stop. Previously been in on similar laps to the other drivers, but he had to stay out to get that wave around, so that's why he's now going to be off strategy. Unfortunately, he would have loved another caution to come out. He could have kept that could have kept on that lead lap, but he will go down at least 1 lap, probably 2 here to the rest of the field. Graham Bunyan continuing, though, as we actually do approach lap 176 of 218 here for the ALS.org Awareness 190, presented by Dan Ensch. Graham looking to take victory here, and that would be over the driver that's just ahead of him in the championship, David Strid, who's just behind him on the track. So it's very, very difficult for these drivers to put time on each other, but nevertheless, as we see Jason Lowe bringing the Pink Pig / Kirby into the pits. Lowe gets going again, stays in that lower gear until he can fully get around the corner, I think trying to avoid getting that tire spin up. And so Lowe there lets Jimmy Drennan through. That's actually for position. So we'll keep the camera here as these two drivers now in a battle with each other. So from Lowe's point of view, my goodness, he's dropped 3 laps now. He'll have to get around Jimmy Drennan here. But that's one of the dangers of pitting out of sequence here on a small oval that's under a mile is once you do pit, you've got to go 2 or 3 laps down. And that is just brutal, especially if you get trapped there. All right, well, it's time to go ahead and crank it up. We're going to drop you into the zone. If you love the noise of these race cars, get ready. We're going to give you some laps of just watching these race cars, barring any sort of emergency for us to talk about it. Here you go. So there you go, some laps with just the beautiful noise of these race cars. Hope you enjoyed that. Hopefully that's a segment that we can return to in the future. Because honestly, I don't like talking, so I don't know why I do this commentary stuff. But anyway, it's much more beautiful to listen to the real noise of these race cars. Hey, what can I tell you? It's in real life. There you can see David Strid, Howard Livingston into the pits for their final pit stop. 26 laps to go. Mardones now pitting in out of third. Very difficult to make that pit entry, so this driver's really having to concentrate on making a perfect pit entry, and that includes getting down below that line. So we look at Graham Bunyan as he exits the pits, still shown in the lead, but Dominic Harte, I'm sorry, as he enters the pits, but Dominic Harte now take over the lead of the race as Harte last stopped on lap 144, and so he will have to enter the pits here soon. There he goes, flashing under the camera now. Harte now in some traffic, coming up on the back of Rick Kelbaugh. And Graham Bunyan just about to exit the pits. So Harte now brings it down. He's going to make that pit stop. Out of the racetrack, all the way down to this pit speed limit. I don't even know how fast it is. It seems really slow. 45-mile-an-hour pit speed limit. It's like going 160, 170 miles an hour and bringing it down to 45 is just like, so slow. Maybe 50 miles an hour, I guess. But so slow. It's like, getting behind. You're in like the fast lane and you get behind that person who's got to go 5-10 miles an hour under the speed limit. You know what I'm talking about. Just use the outside lane. Anyway, Graham Bunyan there, fastest sector 1 time. Personal best sector 2 time. Fastest lap of the race, Graham Bunyan. There with that purple lap, 17.31. So Bunyan not slowing down at all. You talk about fatigue, there is none. This guy, he's been through it all this season. He's had some difficult going with, I mean, he's even continued to race through the whole season despite getting surgery. And, the surgery itself, I think, went pretty well, but kind of stuff afterwards still hurting. And so he's still racing and it still hurts. But something that he's learning to deal with and live with. And there's a fast sector 1 time again. I wonder if we're going to see another fast lap out of him. Looks like he cooled down a little bit there, finishing out that lap. But last lap, a 17.32. Fastest lap of the race, a 17.30 by him. So that is some fast stuff out of him. That last time by a 17.44. So perhaps burning off the very news of those Firestone Firehawks. But 17 laps remaining here for the Alzheimer's.org, the ALZ.org Awareness 190 presented by Dan Ensch. You saw Bunyan there actually just about to make his move around Dan Ensch. This is to put him a lap down, and he manages to do so. So Dan's chances of stealing victory here today kind of slowly eroding, but that's not really where his focus is. He's not as big on trying to chase race wins. He's more about trying to chase those top 5s because he knows that ultimately at the end of the season, that's where the money is getting consistent results in those top 5s. And, especially if you're not going to go out there and try and throw it all against the wall and compete on pace, it's a different thing where you want to be able to take advantage of different opportunities, stay clean on the racetrack, not make any tangles with any other drivers or silly spins or silly mistakes, self-caused spins, self-caused mistakes like leaving your weight jacker too high after you exit the pits. And stuff like that. That's stuff that Dan Ensch, you want to call it rookie mistakes, but this is stuff that you can do 3-5 years into racing. It's easy stuff to forget. But that being said, Ensch is one of the most experienced drivers in this field. He does lots of league racing, at least previously lots of league racing, and now, he's done lots of official racing. And very, very skilled in these Indy cars. I'm not sure what else he races. I don't know that I've even asked him. Maybe that's something we can ask him next time. I'm struggling to think of him racing another car. He'll probably jog my mind in the time that we were teammates together, but I don't recall him racing anything else. So, of course, he's a huge, huge fan of the real-life IndyCar series out of Fort Wayne, Indiana. Going to the Indy 500 every year. So you'd be hard-pressed to find somebody who knows as much week in and week out about what's going on in real-life IndyCar than Dan, and certainly some of that knowledge carrying over. Now, on the same lap, Jason Lowe. Jason Lowe, your points leader, rocketing around here in 7th place. He's dropped 5 positions today. I'm hearing a car having a moment. There's a yellow flag. It looks like, is it Dominic Harte? It is Dominic Harte. Harte was doing so well. He was up into that 3rd spot, and he brings out this late race caution, which is going to change this picture quite dramatically, as it's going to allow... Oh my goodness me. Is this going to allow anybody to get their lap back? I don't think it will. As Bunyan and Strid are out in front. We'll have to see who's in front of Bunyan. Well, Dan Ensch, Dan would just pray that Graham would come in and take tires and fuel, but he won't. So, doesn't look like anybody is going to get their lap back, but some drivers will gamble here and come down into the pits, I imagine, to try to take fresh tires. We'll just have to wait and see who's going to do that. We do show MJ Ramirez in the pits, but I think he's been there since lap 140, so that's not a new pit stop. I am seeing Iñigo Mardones. Sure, why not? 5 laps to go. Drop in for some freshies. He's at the back of the lead lap. He's the last car on the lead lap, so why not? Come in, take those fresh tires, see if you can manage to snag a position back from Dominic Harte. Now, let's go ahead and take a step back here and see what happened. Now, Dominic Harte had just passed... I'll have to make sure the camera's on the right driver there. Dominic Harte had just passed, or was just passing, Howard Livingston. So let's see if we can tell what happens. Harte there on the high side. And trying to get around Livingston. He makes a move to the inside. And it might be a little bit later than this, so we'll have to move ahead here and see if we can get up to the point of contact. But here he is behind Howard Livingston, going to the high side, that low side. I'm just not quite seeing where he's making this, where he has this incident. I think it had us on the wrong replay. So was this a self-caused incident? It appears to be. Harte just getting up towards that wall. It kind of is like what Mike West did not that long ago. So Harte not hitting anything, just keeping it there on the track, just to maybe got that right rear a little bit too hot, was trying to hold his place there on the track, and around she went. So 4 laps remaining. It's not going to change the picture at the front very much, but what it does do is group everybody back together. So if David Strid wants to snag this victory, he's going to have to make a move around Mike West and get up to Graham Bunyan and steal this victory, which David would love to do because he's looking at the back of his, the driver that's right behind him in the championship. So looking back there, you can see the light blue car of David Strid looking back from Graham Bunyan. Oh, there's one of the drivers exiting the pits. Not sure who that was. That was an interesting pit exit. Not sure if that will qualify for a legal pit exit. Have to look at that one. But Graham Bunyan, David Strid going to be starting 1, 2, 3 would be Howard Livingston. So once again, the carecamps.org Coconut Castaways machine up there in the right spot to take a podium position today, which you do know that would be very, very, very well received by the community here in the International IndyCar League. Just 2 laps remaining. And I believe the lights are off on the pace car. Yes, they are. So we get 1 lap, just 1 lap to decide. The ALZ.org Awareness 190 presented by Dan Ensch. I mean, that's barely enough time to get up to speed. So it's going to be quite aggressive if that move comes from David Strid. I really don't expect it. And I don't know that Livingston would make a move, but I would not put it past Harte. Harte actually coming in on lap 190. And then you can't really count out Iñigo Mardones back here, who's got a view of the front. We're back under green, but he gets such a poor start, Iñigo does. He's not going to get a chance to make that move. Will anybody? I don't know. Graham Bunyan, final lap. Will he be able to hold on? I think he will. Graham Bunyan's going to bring it across the line. Barney, the flagman, waves the checkered flag, and Bunyan steals the show for round number 8. The ALZ.org Awareness 190. Congratulations to Graham Bunyan. What a fantastic victory here. The fireworks going off in the background. You can see there the beautiful fireworks here at the virtual Iowa Speedway. Stay tuned. Be coming up with post-race chatter and discussion with the victor, Graham Bunyan. And I'm pretty sure we'll get a chance to chat with Howard Livingston as well. All coming up momentarily here as these drivers start to climb out of their cockpits after celebrating surviving 218 laps in Iowa. So let's go ahead and take a look at the final results from today's race. And there it is, your final order. Graham Bunyan celebrating there at the center of your screen. David Strid doing the same. And why not? Taking victory. His pseudo teammate taking second place. And I mean, it's very possible that Graham Bunyan will overtake David Strid and retake the second position in the championship. Jason Lowe, though, hanging on there in sixth place, and that actually is necessary to minimize the amount of points that he would lose here today. So Lowe doing what he can to hang on to that championship lead, but it's getting smaller and smaller each race, and these two celebrating side by side. They were on the front stretch celebrating side by side. Here they entertain the fans on the back stretch. Great donuts, reminiscent of Alex Zanardi back in the day. The guy that popularized doing donuts at all, and he figured out how to do them pretty perfectly. There you can see the rest of the finishing order. Howard Livingston taking third place. Dominic Harte, of course, taking fourth after a self-spin. So, I mean, what more could be said except that he managed to salvage a fourth place somehow. Iñigo Mardones there in fifth place for Necky Racing Team. Jason Lowe, sixth. Dan Ensch in the ALZ.org last lap motorsports machine, finishing in seventh place, just out of reach of being able to be in that last lap shootout. Rick Lovison in eighth, Mike West ninth, Jimmy Drinnan 10th, Richard Kelbaugh 11th place, Christopher Bryan in 12th place. Manuel Gomez Esteban for Team Mazinger there in 13th. MJ Ramirez in 14th. David Worrell in 15th. And Robert Barnicow, your final driver, in 16th place. So, momentarily, we are going to get a chance to chat with our drivers, and we'll see who's available at the moment. I got Howard Livingston here showing up in third place. Hey, Howard, do you got me?
I got you, buddy.
Hey, it's great to hear from you. And today, it's there's no foots breaking under coconuts. There's no hurricanes in the air, and you managed to get out there in the cockpit once again, and it looks like you never lost a beat. Third place today. Tell us about your race and how exciting it was for you.
Oh, it's just so great to get back in the race car with these guys. Yeah, the whole race just kind of just laid out for us in a good way. Tire wear was huge here, so that's basically what I did the entire race. I just tried to save the tires, and I figured, let people buy me, and hopefully they'll wear their tires out. And cautions fell at good times for us, and so the race just I couldn't ask for any more, and it's great to be back.
I can imagine it's great to be back. And and since you're here, tell us a little bit about what it was like to go through all of the recent Hurricane Ian down there, and just how your life was kind of changed there for a solid week or two. How are things in your part of the world? Are they back to sort of normalcy?
Well, we're doing okay. We're down in the Keys, so we got hit, but not nearly as hard as people to the north in Florida who just got devastated. So, we're okay. A lot of people, unfortunately, 20 miles to the west of us in Key West, I think there were about 400 people had, flooding, up to 5-6 foot of water in their houses. So that's a problem, and obviously we're all trying to help everybody recover. But our hearts go out to everybody, in Central Florida that just got devastated with this thing.
And they sure did. And it just lets you know that just when everything seems like it's going normal and you're enjoying those beautiful summer breezes, there's some big storm can always come in and upset that. But it's great to have you back in the cockpit. Hopefully that's the only thing that you got to go through like that this season. Either way, back in the cockpit and getting third place, congratulations on that. Anybody you want to thank today for your race, and give us your thoughts on the rest of this championship now that you're back in full time.
Yeah, first of all, thanks to my beautiful wife, Cinderella. She's been through me thick and thin here in the last, this year's been a tough one because of my foot, but she's been my nurse, and now I'm walking on 2 feet, so life's good. And always a big shout out to care camps and all the wonderful things they do with kids with cancer.
Absolutely, and of course that big race coming up at the end of the season, Care Camps 250. Got to be looking forward to that now that it's just back to ovals again until the end. Yeah,
and and I love the tracks we're on, and you just never know. I mean, we practiced yesterday on this track, and then today the track was totally different, and I like that. That's a challenge, and you got to figure out, well, your in-car adjustments yesterday, you throw them out the window and kind of play it by ear as you go. So love these tracks, and last week was I enjoyed that track too. First time I'd ever been on it, and the road course. So all the tracks here, and big shout out to all the international iRacing guys, Indy guys that put this on every week, and it's just a wonderful group of people.
You bet. Now, Howard, I do want to draw your attention to the fact that I know we're looking at CareCam's 250 down the line at Indy, but next race, Las Vegas 180. If there's one race that's got your name on it for a potential victory, it could be next race. How you feeling?
Well, man, from your lips to God's ears, that would be wonderful. I'm just going to go out there and do my best, as we always do. And, the cool thing about this league is there are so many absolute incredible drivers, and it is such a pleasure to race for them every week. So you never know. I mean, there's a talent pool here that's just absolutely incredible.
Absolutely. Fantastic to hear from you. Howard Livingston taking third place for the carecamps.org Coconut Castaways mile marker 24 bands, and you got a great website out there also, howardlivingston.com. And so anybody out there who's interested in more of what's going on in Howard Livingston's life, hey, check in on howardlivingston.com. Great to have you, Howard. We'll see you again next week. Good luck at Vegas.
Thanks so much, Trevor, and have a great week. And thanks for an incredible broadcast as always.
Oh, my pleasure. That's Howard Livingston checking in third place today. It's return back to championship form. Always great to have him in the field with us, and as you can see, always a great competitive force in the league. He's won at Vegas. He knows those D-shaped ovals, so check in next week and we'll see whether or not he can capitalize on it. In the meantime, let's go ahead and talk real quick to Dan Ensch, who had a heck of a race today. He was up and down and up and down. He was in the lead for a little bit, off strategy. Hey, Dan, tell us about how your race did go briefly, and you managed to take 7th place. It kind of seems like you salvaged something out of it, but probably not the result you're looking for the alls.org Awareness 190.
No, a couple of slip-ups on strategy and a couple of bad luck breaks on yellows, and one thing after another, and that's the way it is at Iowa. First off, I want to apologize to MJ for costing him a couple of laps early on, and then he had some trouble later, I guess. But I'm the one that started the bad day for MJ, and I wanted to apologize for that. But 7th isn't too bad. It could have been a lot more. I just made a couple of mistakes here and there, including the last yellow. I probably should have come in and got tires in front of Jason. Maybe I'd have had a better chance to snag 6th. So wasn't thinking too clearly today, but hey, 7th is 7th, and I'll take what I can get.
And as always, we're getting that word out about alls.org and hopefully ending ALZ. And thank you again for bringing all of that to our attention. You do it every week with the big featuring on the side pods, but here today, special race and being able to get that infomercial out there. Of course, everybody can go over to alz.org and get all that information about how to help themselves get through that process of Alzheimer's and dementia, etc., but also to make their contribution. alz.org, make your donation today and be able to really help and save lives in the end, and hopefully we can end ALZ. Thank you so much, Dan, and we'll see you next week at Las Vegas.
Thank you very much, Trevor, and I would like to say one thing to those who have a loved one who is suffering from Alzheimer's, especially if you're the primary caregiver. The first thing they teach you in support, or they'll teach you on .org, is that you have to take care of yourself first before you can take care of your loved ones. So be sure and do that. That is so important. If you're going down with the patient, then it's not going to work for anybody. So take care of yourselves and follow through with all the support you can find.
You bet. Wonderful words of advice. Thanks, Dan, for joining us. That's Dan Ensch from 7th place, and just in general, just to add on to that, that's good rule for life, just in general. I mean, I'm getting the age that I am, and I'm seeing the very strong wisdom in what Dan just said. Take care of yourself first. Don't get too caught up in life and in relationships and too far into other people's business, because you got to take care of number one a little bit, make sure you're in good health, and then you can help others who are in need, and you come from a much healthier place to be able to do that. Somebody who knows that very well is Graham Bunyan, whose business it is to actually help those who are in need. He does it every single day in his real life profession in the medical industry, But here today, he was able to help himself to victory. And that is quite substantial news for the driver that's been really battling through some adversity this season. Graham Bunyan joining us live here in post-race Victory Circle chat. Graham, congratulations. You did it again. You did it with panache. You looked like a driver who belonged out there, just barely turning that wheel through the corners. You made it look darn easy. Graham, congratulations on your victory.
Wow, thank you. Yeah, what a day. Just want to thank Dan for bringing along ALZ.org for every time. I think it's been nearly every season now that he's brought that along. So thanks for that, Dan. And yeah, amazing.
I mean, the amazing thing was watching, for sure. I love the fact that we can get out the word about these sponsors, and ALZ.org is a fantastic one to be able to promote. But the amazing thing was watching you and your composure today. You started off the race on pole position, but then due to that first round of pit stops, take us through what your decision process was there. Did you decide that you wanted to come in and take tires and fuel knowing that that would put Jason off strategy? Did you feel like it would give you that immediate advantage? Did you think it could possibly put you at a disadvantage based on yellows? What was kind of going through your head, and obviously David following you into the pits at that point when you made that decision?
Yeah, look, I thought Jason would have pitted, because anybody who gets stuck out there, and if it becomes a caution-free race or there's another caution, you're going to end up at least 2 laps down or 1 lap down. So I was quite surprised that Jason stayed out. Staying behind him was a little tough in behind. So I stuck with him there for a while, and the tyres sort of got a little bit jello-y. And then, yeah, I just sort of rode behind. Then it's just a matter of just riding it out as long as I could, try and stretch out that fuel run to make Jason be a little bit further back so he just didn't fall back into that pit window. And unfortunately, that's how it worked out for Jason today. That's just bad luck there. But yeah, no, look, it was it threw a curveball at us today. The setup that Dave supplied and we all worked on was absolutely amazing yesterday. It was about 9 degrees colder last night, so a bit hotter today on track, which threw a big curveball out. So like Howard said, we throw everything out to the wind and restart again, and it was sort of learn on the go.
So 9 degrees Celsius, I'm assuming that you're referring to.
Yeah, you guys in your Fahrenheit, I tell you.
I'm trying to convert for our U.S.-based fans who are pretty much the only people in the world that use the non-metric system, imperial system. But, at the same time, it's like 20-some degrees Fahrenheit. That is a huge difference from where you practice to where you race. And obviously, if you're like going to prep for a league race and you are pretty confident what the temperature is going to be, you go into it, you practice all the time in that temperature, maybe a little bit hotter. But if it goes from hotter from where you were practicing to where you race, like you said, that could be a huge effect on those tires. So do you think that kind of caught some of the drivers out there today?
Oh, definitely. There was a lot more grip in the car yesterday under practice. Today, it felt like we were out at sea. Well, for me, it did anyway. It just felt like the front end was just riding the waves. It had no grip in that front. You were just sort of bouncing across the track. So yeah, it was pretty different. And it only dropped like 27 degrees was when it started out, Celsius. Mm-hmm. And the track finished at 26.7. So it only dropped by 0.3 of a C. So and that's nothing.
How weird.
So it was a hot track the whole time. Yeah.
Very, very weird stuff, but I guess we're used to that in iRacing. It makes sense until all of a sudden it just randomly doesn't make sense. But so talking about, kind of how things have gone along for you, of course, you did have surgery this season. You're recovering from it. It's not fully back to the way that it was before surgery, but at the same time, you're getting through it. Now, also, you've had this sim rig problem. You've had to completely tear apart the sim rig. You've been waiting for new parts. Is that finally totally solved? And what do you think of driving on your new rig?
I tell you what, you've seen the finished product. It's still sitting in the corner. I haven't transferred all my other stuff over yet, so I'm still racing on the old one. I think end of season I'll change everything over now. I think if I change now, I'm gonna destroy what I'm trying to gain here.
And speaking of that, everybody can certainly hear when Graham was describing what the car was doing, a real sense of intuition for what the car is doing on the track, a real feel for how the car actually feels through that steering wheel. Talking about the tires feeling like jello and riding the waves. It's kind of that sort of touch that you have to be 5-time defending champion and be able to kind of smoke the field like you did here in Iowa. Thoughts about the upcoming races, though, Graham? Any of these ovals you think going to be a challenge for you, or are you pretty much ready for... I mean, Vegas, there's not much to do, but you do got to look at Indy coming up at the end and a number of other races like Milwaukee. That could be quite a nightmare for some drivers. What do you think about the end of this season?
Yeah, look, I like Milwaukee because it's a track you've got to drive. I like these tracks where you don't have to have your foot flat to the floor. I find flat to the floor and turning left to me is a little bit boring, but I like a track where you've actually got to work the car. Milwaukee, definitely got to work the car around there. It's not a flat to the floor track. Vegas, depending on what we get thrown as a setup to how that race goes, but I don't mind Vegas. It's been a pretty good track for me as well. So there's some good tracks coming up. Indianapolis, as you know, it's anybody's race, that thing. It's just survival of the fittest with Indy.
It is, and it's kind of one of those situations. Who has the best tires at the very end of the race? Who's in position to make that final lunge for the win? And obviously, there's very little you can do, but you might be able to defend that win if you're on old tires in turn 4. But we'll get to that in a couple of races. In the meantime, it's time to celebrate, Graham, and look at your next week heading in and go into it knowing that you're climbing up the championship. You should probably be in... You could be in second place with this victory, so we'll have to see how it works out.
First place.
You think you're in... Okay, you're probably in first. Well,
done.
well, there you go. Points supplied
Only
and done.
by a point over Jason. 1 point. So it's going to be a tight ending.
Whew, that is close stuff indeed. And as you said, I mean, when you talk about Vegas, it is kind of just holding the car on the bottom of the track, and anyone can do that, and not to put Jason Lowe on the spot, but if he can somehow get pole position and just hold it there, he could retake that lead. So either way, we'll look forward to it next week. Great champion that you are. Thanks for joining us post-race chat here, Graham, and good luck with the rest of the season.
Yeah, no worries. Thank you, and thanks for everything you do. And shout out to Mike West for his blistering qualifying time too. That was amazing being up there.
Totally. Mike West, one of the other pseudo teammates of Graham Bunyan. Thanks for being with us, Graham. Good luck, man.
Cheers, mate. See ya.
So that was Graham Bunyan, your 5-time defending champion, trying to jump to 6-time defending champion. He's faced all kinds of adversity this season, but you have seen him make his way through the field. There on your screen, you can see the remaining races. Make sure that you subscribe if you're not already subscribing. Also, thank you so much to the drivers that stopped by and the others that stopped by in the chat room. Will Stern's not able to make the race today, letting us know. Very tough track to race on. I agree. It's either you got the right setup here and it feels like you could just drive a million miles on this track, or you are suffering. And a lot of drivers having to suffer today with those increased temperatures. Iñigo Mardones checking in. We appreciate that. Of course, Graham Bunyan letting everybody know how his race was going. So hit subscribe, like this video, and stay tuned for the rest of the season here on VirtualRacing.Network. Just 4 more races remain. We'll see you next week, same time, same channel, 10 o'clock Eastern time. Don't be anywhere else. Put it on your calendar, put it in your phone, get a tattoo with it. Why not? You know, let us know that you got a tattoo of it and we'll do something special for you or something. So anyway, have a great rest of your week, everybody. Till next week at Vegas. So long. Bye-bye.